Okay, so you're on skill number 3, and that is identifying angle relationships. So you've learned all the vocab, and now it's time to put it to applications. So first, let's review. Vertical angles are congruent, and the congruent symbol is just an equal sign with a little squiggly over it. That's the universal sign for congruent. This is also the universal sign for angle. Corresponding angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent, and alternate exterior angles are congruent. So those are all the angles that we've learned about that are congruent. Supplementary angles add to 180, remember, and complementary angles add to 90. And you're going to need those to kind of make relationships, equations in the next skill. So we're kind of going to work on identifying each kind. So if I scroll down to this, we're first going to talk about corresponding angles. And so I kind of marked those with different shapes. So if you notice the stars here, those are corresponding because they make the same angle with the parallel line. So because this line is the same as this line, the transversal will make the same angle in both positions. So think of corresponding as the same position in the parallel lines. So the stars are corresponding, the triangles are corresponding, the squares are corresponding angles, and the circles are corresponding angles. So that's just kind of a different way to note that. So those are corresponding. Next, we can talk about vertical angles. So I'll draw a picture, make this distinction here. Well, I got parallel lines cut by a transversal. Vertical angles are any ones that are across from each other. So this would be a vertical angle to that. This would be a vertical angle to this. This would be a vertical angle to this. And triangle would be a vertical angle to triangle. So those are all the angles that are congruent to each other. Vertical angles are congruent to each other. And if you notice, they kind of definitely look the same. So any angles that are across each other when two lines intersect are congruent. So those are our vertical angles. Okay, next up is alternate interior angles. So I'm just going to draw my parallel lines cut by transversals. Okay, so if these are my parallel lines, and I can denote that with two little arrows there. Alternate interior angles are the angles that are inside the parallel lines that are congruent. So if you notice, you can kind of tell, like this angle is probably close to this angle. They're definitely congruent, and those would be a pair of alternate interior angles that are congruent. The other pair of alternate interior angles that are congruent is this one and this one. They're not congruent to each other. The star and the square aren't congruent to each other, but the square and the square are congruent because those are alternate, they're opposite inside the parallel lines. So those are an example, those are the only two pairs of alternate interior angles in this picture. Next, and I don't know if it might be our last, oh no, we'll do supplementary. So this, finally draw our last picture here. And alternate exterior angles are opposite, but on the outside of the parallel lines. So for example, the star would be alternate interior to that, and those are congruent. And the only other ones are the circles, because these aren't congruent to each other. These are actually supplementary, which we'll get to next. But the circle is congruent to the circle because they're alternate, they're opposite the transversal and outside the parallel lines. So this is alternate exterior angles. And the last one we'll talk about in this example is supplementary angles. So if we go down here, my parallel lines cut by transversals, the star and the circle are supplementary. So I can say the star plus the circle equals 180 degrees because they're a part of a line. This angle plus this angle makes a straight line. So also, if you notice, these two angles are supplementary because the transversal is a straight line. So I can also say circle plus square is 180 degrees. And I can, let's see, what's another shape? Triangle. Well, I can make this a circle since these are congruent. And also, yeah, so we have, and I'm going to make this maybe a star because they are congruent because they're vertical angles. So these angles are supplementary, these angles are supplementary, these angles are supplementary, and these angles are supplementary. So that's, and the same thing goes for down here. So star and circle are supplementary. So any angles that add up, that make a straight line are supplementary. You can add them together to get 180. That is all for the skill number 3 video. You can practice your skills in the skill number 3 section of your practice packet. Thanks for watching.